Imagine taking a country of tents and turning it into the richest nation in Africa in just one generation. Imagine a leader who gave his people free electricity, free healthcare, and free education. Now, imagine that same man ruling with total control for 42 years, silencing anyone who whispered against him until he was hunted down like prey in a roadside drainpipe. This is not fiction. This is the complicated true life story of Muammar Gaddafi. Was he Africa's greatest hero or a brutal tyrant? The answer is that he was both. Muammar Muhammad Abu Minyar al-Gaddafi was not born in a palace. He was born around 1942 near Sirte, in the endless deserts of Libya. He was a Bedouin. His family lived in a tent, woven from goat hair, moving with their animals to find grazing land. They were poor and illiterate. Young Muammar grew up listening to stories around the fire. Stories about how his grandfather died fighting the Italian colonizers who had invaded Libya. He grew up hating foreign rule. He looked at his country, which was ruled by a king supported by the West, and he felt that Libya's oil wealth was being stolen while his people lived in poverty. He realized the only way a poor Bedouin boy could change things was through the army. He joined the military academy. He wasn't the best student, but he was charismatic. He gathered other young, angry officers around him. They called themselves the Free Officers Movement. Their goal was simple: take back Libya. In 1969, the king left the country for medical treatment. Muammar saw his chance. In a stunning, bloodless coup, his forces took control of the government buildings and radio stations. It was over in hours. At just 27 years old, the boy from the tent was now the ruler of Libya. He immediately changed everything. He closed down American and British military bases. But his biggest move was the oil. He told foreign oil companies that Libya was now in charge of its own resources. Almost overnight, Libya went from being one of the poorest nations on earth to incredible wealth. So, what did Gaddafi do with this new money? This is the part of his legacy that many Libyans still miss today. He used the oil money to build a massive welfare state. Before Gaddafi, very few Libyans could read. Under his rule, literacy skyrocketed. He built universities and hospitals. Healthcare became free for every citizen. If a Libyan wanted to be a farmer, the government gave them land, a house, equipment, and livestock for free to get started. Electricity was free. Gasoline was cheaper than water. His most ambitious project was the Great Man-Made River. It was the world's largest irrigation project, a massive network of underground pipes that brought fresh water from deep beneath the Sahara Desert right to the cities on the coast. He dreamed of turning the desert green. For decades, Libyans enjoyed the highest standard of living in all of Africa. There was stability and there was money. But Gaddafi had an ego that was bigger than Libya. He wanted to be a major player on the world stage. At first, he tried to unite the Arab world, modeled after his hero, Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser. When that failed, he turned his eyes south. He decided he would be the king of kings of Africa. He became the biggest financial supporter of the African Union. He dreamed of a United States of Africa, one continent with one army, one passport, and one economy. He used Libya's money to fund liberation movement against apartheid in South Africa and funded Nelson Mandela's ANC. But he also funded violent rebel groups in places like Sierra Leone and Liberia, causing chaos. But his most dangerous idea, the one that many historians believe truly threatened the West, was about money. Gaddafi planned to quit selling Libyan oil for US dollars or French francs. He wanted to create a new currency, the gold African dinar. He wanted all of Africa to trade its resources only for gold. This would have shifted immense economic power away from Europe and America and back into the hands of Africans. It was a revolutionary idea that made him very powerful enemies. If we stop the story here, Gaddafi sounds like a saint. But a true story must show the shadow side. For 42 years, Muammar Gaddafi was an absolute dictator. There were no real elections. There was no free press. He wrote a famous little green book, which contained his political philosophy, and forced everyone to study it. He created revolutionary committees that acted as spies in neighborhoods and universities. If you spoke out against Gaddafi, you could be arrested, tortured, or just disappear. He publicly hanged his political opponents on television to spread fear. While he gave his people money, he took away their freedom. By 2011, a generation had grown up knowing only his face, tired of the fear and his often bizarre, erratic behavior on the world stage. In 2011, the Arab Spring swept across North Africa. People were rising up against long-term dictators. Protests began in the eastern Libyan city of Benghazi. Gaddafi reacted the only way he knew how, with brutal force. He called the protesters rats and threatened to hunt them down alley by alley, house by house. His threats gave the international community a reason to act. NATO, led primarily by France, Britain, and the US, began a bombing campaign, destroying Gaddafi's air force and tanks to protect civilians. The tide turned fast. The rebels advanced. Gaddafi, the man who ruled for 4 decades, went on the run. By October 2011, he was cornered near his hometown of Sirte, where he was born. His convoy tried to escape, but was hit by NATO airstrikes. Wounded and desperate, the former King of Kings crawled into a dirty drainage pipe under a road to hide. He was dragged out by rebel militias. The final moments were chaotic, brutal, and captured on shaky cell phone cameras for the world to see. He was beaten and shot dead in the dirt. Today, over a decade later, Libya is fractured, often violent, and struggling. Many celebrate Gaddafi's death as the end of a tyrant. Others look at the chaos today and miss the stability, the free electricity, and the safety of his rule. Muammar Gaddafi was a complex man, a Bedouin who built a modern state, a visionary for Africa who ruled through fear. His story is a powerful reminder that history is rarely simple, black and white.